Montessori Parent Education Resource by Shannon Tyrabond. Montessori's Vision. Montessori's Vision. I created a video in my classroom featuring my current students. I have shared it with my parents through Facebook, and some have continued to share it on their Facebook page as well. My goal is to create a handout that would be passed around to the community outside of our school to hopefully bring awareness to potentially new families.
Maria Montessori's vision was simple in theory, but vast in scope. She envisioned peace. Dr. Montessori called for a spiritual renewal of humanity. She declared that it must begin and can only begin with the child. The child is our foundation, which our future should be built upon. Through the child developing properly, he would be able to create the man. Maria Montessori believed this new man would learn to do more effectively our share of work in the cosmic plan. She has told us the world was not created for us to enjoy, but we are created in order to evolve the cosmos. Montessori elaborates that nature gives a useful purpose to each living being. Each individual has its own characteristic movements with its own fixed purpose. The creation of the world is a harmonious coordination of all these activities with a set purpose. Maria Montessori encourages us to move with a purpose, to find our path in this universe, to share our worth, to help build the child, to create the peace.
Role of the teacher. Role of the teacher. I made a second video meant to answer some questions that I am often asked by my students' parents. I tried to create an entertaining video that would still interest an audience that does not already have a connection to Montessori.
Montessori's role of the teacher. Or, why is my kid's teacher just standing there? Maria Montessori wrote, "The teacher must be attractive. She should be young, beautiful, with flowers in her hair, scented with cleanliness, happy, and full of dignity." Dr. Montessori, come on, you are no spring chicken yourself. She did quickly include the line, "Everyone can translate it as they like." But what Montessori basically meant was that the teacher needs to present themselves in a respectful manner when in front of their students. We should be the living representation of order and care in the environment. Basically the opposite of how most of us feel every morning. But we get it. The child is important and we need to exemplify that. Next, and don't laugh at this one, but the teacher must have faith in the child. Up to this point in the child's life, adults waited with care for this human to grow their first tooth, speak their first word, take their first step, and, let's be honest, control their first bowel movement. An even stronger patience must be used now to allow this person to develop as nature intended. A main role of a teacher in a Montessori classroom is to prepare the environment. Think of the teacher as the best maitre d', waiter, chef, and dishwasher all wrapped up in one at the most opulent restaurant, catering to your little bundle of joy. We are there to maintain the lessons and the classroom in a beautiful working condition. Then we must devote ourselves to keeping the order and protecting the environment from any obstacle or guinea pig poop in a child's way. The best part yet is that us Montessori teachers make all this work look so good, the students start begging to clean, organize, and yes, even sweep up the guinea pig poop all by themselves. It is true, we had the tiny-sized brooms and low-level sinks to prove it. Here is where the real separation of a traditional teacher and a Montessori teacher begins. Pay attention. A Montessori teacher must allow the child the freedom of choice. This freedom is often misinterpreted. The freedom a child is striving for is different than the freedom an adult desires. And let's just keep this G-rated and not tell me what your freedom desires. Every natural urge a child goes through, from first lifting their head to borrowing your car, is a part of a long process of creating themselves and constructing who they are meant to become. Their journey is about becoming an adult, independent and free of others. That is a child's freedom. Wait, it gets even trickier. A Montessori teacher must not decide what and when the child is going to learn something. I think I just heard a few heads explode. Let me try to explain. We must carefully observe each student as an individual and not base when they're ready to learn something on their manufacture date. This is not your typical assembly line education. We are trained in being able to recognize when the child's natural development is ready to accept a new lesson. On behalf of all Montessori teachers, please let me clarify. We are trained to recognize readiness, not predict it. So when you ask us, when will my child start reading? Us Montessorians want to respond. The periphery is the only accessible part of the personality that is attainable to us. The mysterious center in his creative intelligence is his secret, which we must respect. But instead, we usually feel pressured and say something like, soon, I'm sure. Eventually, the child will move more and more away from the teacher and gravitate toward their work. As the amount of lessons grows, so too will the child's length of concentration. This is what a Montessori teacher dreams of. If I can be sappy for a second, Montessori beautifully described it as, I have helped this life to achieve its creation. We now take a more passive role, step back, observe, and respond to the development happening. In fact, we are no longer a teacher, but a directress or director. For the environment, the lessons, and the children themselves are now truly doing all the teaching. Maria Montessori said, the greatest sign of success for a teacher is to be able to say, the children are now working as if I did not exist. Your answer to, why is my kid's teacher just standing there?
Nature of the child. Nature of the child. I created a private Facebook page for my students' parents. In this format, the parents are able to read regularly about the Montessori philosophy while connecting it to a picture that I took that day. I post 5 days a week a picture of a child with the philosophy behind the development taking place. I found this subject to have the most interest for my parents and where they were eager to have as much information as possible. In this format, parents are also able to ask questions privately and publicly, and this has improved communication and understanding tremendously. This will continue to be a work in progress for the remainder of the year, so I will only be able to show a few examples of what has taken place so far. Facebook post, a success story. One of the reasons a Montessori teacher trusts a child to choose their own lessons is because the work then has an inner motivation and satisfaction no adult could ever have on a child. Caden spontaneously chose the 100 board all by his own doing. He focused through a screaming kid, the cleanup music, and me hiding with my camera to get this money shot in order to accomplish something he chose. Facebook post. In our classroom, we practiced in Danielian handwriting. This type of printing is believed to transition over to cursive the most effectively. I also like to have the students use golf pencils to force their hands to pinch the pencil instead of grasping or wrapping their thumb around it. Facebook post. Why do they practice the same thing over and over again? I mean, once they can pour, why don't they move on? Think of it this way. We've all seen someone practice a golf swing over and over. That athlete is perfecting a muscle movement until they have the exact precision they desire. Your child's brain is working with that same determination. All the lessons in our practical life area encourage this development. So the next time you see your kid twisting and untwisting a lid or stringing and unstringing beads over and over again, just think of that golfer who's making concentrated, precise changes in their motor development, and understand your child is building that same athlete inside himself. Facebook post. In the sensorial curriculum, we work on developing all 5 senses, including smell. The aim is to create better order and distinguish discrepancies from our environment. Facebook post. Care of environment is a pretty big deal in a Montessori classroom. Next time you're at school, please check out our room. Lots of small parts, lots of plants, and lots of animals. Keeping in order is not only necessary to have a clean room, but it also helps your child's brain make connections and predictions which will eventually lead to a love and respect for their environment and everything in it. I could never take care of this room by myself. I rely and trust your kids to put things back where they belong, as well as keep the plants and animals alive. Facebook post. In a Montessori classroom, whenever possible, we use objects to learn with. This is a geography lesson that sorts transportation by land, air, or water. The objects not only entice your child to choose a lesson, but make the aim of what is being taught more concrete. Facebook post. A lot of reading happens every day in our classroom. Feeling and manipulating of the letters help to strengthen the representation of the letter to the sound it makes. Your child might not bring home a book, but that doesn't mean they haven't already been sounding out words and reading in our classroom on a regular basis. Facebook post. All of our math from learning 1-to-1 correspondence to 10 cubed is done with hands-on material. The lessons also follow a specific order, each taking information from the previous and adding to the next. This makes the learning concrete and more easily understood. We do have papers corresponding to almost every lesson, but if the child's printing skills can't keep up to his soaring math skills, that doesn't have to stop his learning. The students are still allowed and encouraged to push their way through the math curriculum, and their printing will catch up when it does. Prepared environment and work of the child. Prepared environment and work of the child. I created a brief paragraph on the philosophy, as well as a bullet point handout for parents to take with them when visiting other schools. This will help new parents to know what to look for in an authentic early childhood Montessori program. In my presentation for Role of the Teacher, I included information about the teacher's duties in preparing the environment, so this handout is meant to include specifically what to look for in the classroom. Handout given to parents about the philosophy behind the prepared environment. Montessori schools and the prepared environment. Maria Montessori believed that the child learns and absorbs from their environment. The classroom should be a beautiful space meant for the child's physical, emotional, intellectual, social, and spiritual development. The teacher should place great effort in preparing the classroom with purposeful lessons that will encourage a child to develop through the curriculum and create a true social life. Along with the teacher, the lessons and the other students should be supporting your child as they reach multiple milestones over the next 3 years. Handout given to prospective parents on what to look for in an authentic Montessori prepared environment. What to look for in a Montessori classroom. Child-sized furniture. Child-sized bathrooms located with convenience and safety. Sinks and counters should be at the child's height. Precise scientific materials with reduced variable, control of error, designed with an end. Lessons placed on shelves within students' reach. Subject areas should include language, math, sensorial, practical life, art, geography, and science. Lessons in each subject area should have a variety of challenge to aid in the progress of a mixed age group. Mixed age group of children. Freedom of movement. Independent choices. Children working. individually, in pairs, in small groups, and with or without a teacher. Finally, natural light, plants, pets, and an overall feeling of beauty and security. Observation and assessment in the Montessori classroom. Observation and assessment in the Montessori classroom. This is a video explaining why Montessori teachers observe, how it helps with assessment. This was videotaped in my classroom, and it is meant to be an explanation for the general public.
Why Montessori teachers observe. Have you ever made assumptions about someone or their actions? I know I have been guilty of this. Maria Montessori was a scientist, and she requested that teachers take the time to observe like a scientist. Teachers in a Montessori classroom learn about your child through observation. We get to understand your child as a whole person, developing and different every day. We assess your student through these observations, learning where they are with their motor, emotional, and academic skills. Your child's teacher will then adapt a personalized lesson plan to meet your child where they are at, then challenge them to reach their fullest potential. Through this observation, a Montessori teacher also knows when to correct and redirect behavior. It is difficult sometimes not to just jump in when assuming something is going wrong. In non-emergency situations, a Montessori teacher must still observe and reflect to make sure that we are not interrupting a purposeful time in a child's development. Here is an example of a moment observing the classroom. A Montessori teacher will take time every day to step back and assess the function and productivity of their classroom. We will look for where we can improve the environment for better efficiency and development. A Montessori teacher will also be keeping a close eye for any academic or discipline issues that may arise. Notice the girl on the right in pink trying to decide what to choose. A Montessori teacher will allow the younger students time to explore and discover what they are eager to learn. This time allows for a strong intrinsic motivation of work to establish. Every lesson in the classroom is purposeful, so unless a child chooses something they have not been introduced to yet by a teacher, there is no wrong choice for the student. This young girl spontaneously chose a printing exercise. This is not a lesson I would have chosen for a newer student, but through patience, trust, and observation, I have just learned that this girl is ready and excited to begin printing. Here's a pair of boys doing a work that is intended for one student at a time. Instead of immediately breaking up this duo, a Montessori teacher will listen and watch carefully to recognize the important socialization, teamwork, and peer teaching that is taking place. So when should a Montessori teacher interrupt? When the action is not peaceful or purposeful. On a closer look, that trio of boys are not actually sweeping up peanut shells as I first thought. It seems they are getting ready for hockey season. Time to intervene. I hope this helps you understand better why Montessori teachers must observe the classroom. It is not only an issue of safety, but one of assessment as well. Through thoughtful observation, a Montessori teacher can truly understand your child, discover their needs, and unlock their potential.
I have sincerely enjoyed putting these parent resources together. I have already received positive feedback from my students' parents thanking me for lifting some of the mystery off of Montessori. This assignment has not only brought me closer to Montessori's pedagogy, but to the parents of my school as well.